We'll call this regular city council meeting to order on February 17th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Eimer? Present. Mr. Bateman?
Present.
Mrs. McCullen?
Present.
Mr. Parrott?
Present.
Mr. Downs?
Present.
Mrs. Ross? Present. Mrs. O'Donoghue?
Present.
Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to do a moment of silence for Patrick O'Neill, who passed away recently. Pat, for the record, Pat was a big friend of the community, an avid bowler, county board member for 15 years. So on February 11th, we lost him. So we'll do a moment of silence for Pat. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Does anybody like to speak under public participation this evening? Okay. For the record, there is no public participation. We will start with the consent agenda this evening. It consists of 5A, payment of bills, 5B, approval of minutes, January 14th, 2025, committee of the whole meeting minutes, and 5C, approval of request from Lincoln Rail Splitter Antique Auto Club to permit the closing of South Kickapoo Street between Broadway Street and Pulaski Street for the Cars and Coffee meeting on Saturday, April 26, 2025, Saturday, May 24th, 2025, Saturday, June 28th, 2025, Saturday, July 26th, 2025, and Saturday, September 27th, 2025, from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderwoman Rolfs made the motion. Alderman Eimer, second. Ms. Rolfs and then Ms. McClellan.
This morning, I received an email from Ethan, and I didn't know if this was the time that he wanted us to discuss the time, or if we've come to an agreement that the 11 a.m. stands as it is. What Ethan was looking at was trying to see if we could move that to 10 o'clock so that the time would be 8 a.m. to 10 o'clock because of the downtown traffic.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with him today about that as well.
So I did have some conversations, and I wasn't sure. I know that he had sent us a memo that Bob had sent to us. And I didn't know if he wanted to address that or if we just wanted to go ahead and...
No, I believe Mr. Herman's actually had conversations with some of the businesses. So if you wanted to step up and speak with the council, we'd certainly welcome that, since you are the requester.
I talked to all the businesses 3 weeks ago, and I thought this was all settled. So the new discussion today was a surprise to me. We want to work with people. We want to do whatever we got to do to keep everybody happy. Ethan sent me the email, and we have not got together to talk about it. There was possibility of the 10 o'clock. We really like the 11 o'clock. You get people from out of town for 2 hours. They're just not coming. So we really think that we can get enough people. And there's more businesses that are open on Saturday afternoon, or on Saturday morning, I should say. So we really like the 8 to 11. We've talked about, Ethan brought up the possibility of one-way traffic, so we can park on the outside of the square, and customers can have the outside and Cars and Coffee on the inside. Again, that was all today, and we haven't had, it wasn't back and forth. That was just, I don't know who all he talked to. Like I say, I thought we had this set. So we'll do whatever we got to do. I'd really like to have the date set. If the time can be up in the air, that's fine. But we need to start getting advertising out so that we can get more people here. That's what we're trying to do, is get more people. So, but whatever we got to do, we want to keep everybody happy. It's great that there's more businesses open on Saturday. I know that there are spouses that don't come because there's nothing to do in years past. I think this is a great thing to have more options for that. So that's where I'm at.
Ms. McClellan, did you have a question?
Yeah, we just had there was just a study done, and the top thing was that the business owners are saying the streets are closed too much. That's their top problem. And so I'm not sure who you talked to, but it was a business study done, and they said mostly it's the downtown people who are really concerned about that. So
Okay.
I was wondering if possibly you could move like 3 of them around the corner. I mean, five Saturdays is very detrimental to the businesses. Could you move 3 of them over to like Pulaski Street?
Yeah, Ethan said he's okay with doing that. As long as it's really, we get a sponsor every time, and as long as that they're happy with that, we're okay. Like I say, this is just last minute, and I thought we had this all figured out, and I'm kind of at a loss. I wouldn't have submitted the paperwork if I didn't think people were ready to be okay with it. So whatever we got to do, I'm totally flexible. It's a good location. The square, Kickapoo Street works better, but we can certainly go to Pulaski Street for some of them if we need to.
I know that would be very, very, that would make a lot of the downtown business owners really happy because they'll be able to make some money that day. Usually when the street is closed, you don't make any money at all that day.
Okay.
It's been said lots of times that people do it. They have things down to attract people, and it does attract people. But if you talk to the businesses, it just totally kills the business for the day. Now, there's going to be people like Ethan who really does a really good business. And so, but otherwise, people will come in and use the restroom maybe from car shows and things like that. But they really don't, they don't patronize the businesses. So I really, really appreciate you willing to make some concessions. And I know you're making friends with the business owners. So thank you very much for that.
Well, we're all, I live in the county. I don't live in the city, but we're all from Lincoln or Logan County, Lincoln and Logan County. So everybody needs to get along, get better together. So I don't know if any of you have ever been there, but people totally ignore the barricades and drive around all the time. So, you like I say, come.
No, sir, that's a joke.
I'm sorry.
I literally almost get run over on events where people move the barricades, Third Fridays,
Yeah.
other barricades. So, that was a joke.
I'm sorry. So I would say in years past, the only business that was really open was the coffee house or the guest house, and people don't get between people and their caffeine. It's just a bad deal. But again, I understand you got a business to run and want to do whatever we can do to make you all happy. So I don't know at this point how to, what I applied for was one street for 5 days. So if there's a way to do that differently from what I submitted, great. But I'd really like to have the dates, if nothing else. If we can figure out the streets some other way or some later date, that'd be great.
Ms. O'Donohue?
So I guess for me, if it's a detriment to the downtown businesses to be closing the street, is it something we need to look at for Third Fridays? Is it something we need to look at for having other events downtown? I mean, I think can't just pick and choose what we're closing streets for and not allowing some people to do it and other people to do it. So is it something then that we need to reconsider all of our events that we're having downtown?
Mr. Parrott?
Just a quick question to the suggestion of just closing down half the street and leaving it open. Is that a possibility, Walt? Or
Go ahead, Joe.
Chief?
Chief Meister?
Sorry, cut in front of you there. I appreciate the flexibility of the event organizers, but I do have to offer my advice on the change of traffic flow to the council. I would not be supportive of that idea at all. One, it'll interfere with emergency response because Broadway Street, since the closure of Pekin Street, Railroad Crossing, Broadway Street is a very important thoroughfare. That alone, I think, is important enough, but also changing the traffic flow to one way for one day is going to be extremely confusing to the people that haven't watched this or did not read the notice in the newspaper, and you'll have people going the wrong way, and that's worse than, well, it's just real bad.
I think the recommendation would have only been specific to Kickapoo Street. I don't think they were thinking that, but your
I
points are
was-
still valid regardless.
I was thinking of the entire square, one way around the square. That's how I understood it. So if I misunderstood that, it would not be as bad for Kickapoo, but it, my opinion.
I would concur with Chief Meister, and you think it's an issue with them driving around barricades, and you try to make it one-way traffic, it'll magnify that.
Ms. McClellan?
I don't, just to answer Rhonda's question, I don't think it's the type of event as much as it is the number of the events that we have. The city's getting there's more businesses down there, and like Rob said, there's more people, and there's more businesses open, and so where it's a little more difficult when you're talking about shutting down the business for like 8 businesses than when it was just Ethan or several people. But it's just the number of days that it's closed, and it's getting more and more frequent. We're closing it down more frequently, and usually it's just Kickapoo. A lot of them are only Kickapoo, and if we could share the load to some other streets, which I know you can't do it on Broadway or by the post office, right? Those are kind of two that.
Yeah, we have to keep that 1/2 block of McLean Street open for the post office.
So if we could share the load, if the city could share the load of closings to other places, the lady was so nice who did the Touch a Truck. She took it to the park, and they had a great event because they had it around the park. It's like we have lots.
Robin, can you pull your mic back down, please?
We
Thank
have
you.
there's lots of opportunities, and if we could just spread the love, so to speak, around the city a little bit more, that would be very helpful to the. And I just want to say that my husband has a business on Kickapoo, but I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking as an alderman, and I won't vote on this because I'll have to abstain. But it's something that's been going on for a while, and as the downtown area grows, it's just going to be more, and more people are probably going to want to do it. And I think we have to put some kind of limit on it. How many days we want to shut it down in order to really make sure that we're supporting small business, which is small and medium businesses are the cornerstone of any kind of, especially downtown. So.
Agreed. Mr. Parrott?
Would on Saturdays, what time do most of the businesses open? 10?
Go down the block, 8, 9, 7, 10, 8, and then the quilt shop's gone, so I don't know what's going to be in there.
So on Saturdays, that's the normal hours, and I was going to make a suggestion, maybe we compromise and go 10:30, but I don't know.
Ms. Rolfs?
That was one of the things, and I had suggested that earlier today, that what if we went to 10:30, because Ethan had talked about a compromise. If we look at changing the parking and we go 2 spots around the corner, does that impact the intersection there? And how do we don't want people that are looking at the cars to walk out in the intersection thinking it's okay, or do we block that intersection off?
Are you asking me?
Yes, please.
Well, I can understand the safety concern. It is incumbent upon the pedestrian to make sure that they don't get hit by a car. And frankly, I think people are more distracted walking across crosswalks with their cell phones than they would be. If I'm just imagining myself, if I'm downtown enjoying a car show, I'm going to stop and look at a car that I find interesting, not watch it or walk past it or looking at it through the crosswalk. So I don't think that's going to create a dangerous situation.
So would that mean that you would use both sides of Pulaski Street if you went around the corner? Or would you have the cars just on the courthouse side?
Is that for me?
Ms. Rolfs, is that for Rob?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think the safety concerns are the same. You need to block the whole street off, whatever street we're on. If I'm understanding, and I understand to the point totally, it makes good sense. I would, it would make sense to either do, Kickapoo or Pulaski, whichever one we're on that week, to block the whole street. As far as getting people coming in from out of town, I think, as long as we're on the square, they're not going to care. It's a block difference, so that wouldn't make any difference to us at all.
I think we've tried doing a rotation in the past, at various locations. Even though McLean is half blocked, there's still the Farm Bureau down there that's not open. But when you get onto Pulaski Street, you are going to impact Mama's, who's open for breakfast, and then Sherwin-Williams opens as well. So we're going to impact somebody regardless of which side of the square we go on. So I think rotation seems to be a more fair, logical approach to it. Are you open to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we can work on the locations. Would you like for the council to at least lock in the date so you can get it published?
That'd be great.
Okay.
That'd be
Council,
perfect.
is the council amenable to that? Okay. So we will need somebody to make an amendment to an amended motion to item 5C to remove the street locations, and we will bring those back at a later date.
Make a motion to 5C to remove the locations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Downs made the amended motion. Alderman Parrott second. Ms. Ross, did you have something?
I was just wondering if you put designated street, are we gonna eventually have a calendar that will say which block you're going to be on?
Yeah, as soon as we get a date, we're going to put together a calendar, not only of these events, but all of our events for the summer, and I'll provide one of those to the council.
We have a calendar that we keep down in the clerk's office for that as well. Okay. So there's anything else, Ms. Ross?
No, I just wasn't sure that we wanted to leave the street out totally, if we wanted to include a designated street, and that would be on the calendar.
Can we bring that back to the council once he's got that locked in? Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion on the amended motion on the floor? Okay. If not, roll call on the amended motion, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mrs. Ross,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Eimer, Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there any, so we can wrap this up, this topic. So there's been an amendment to the motion. Any further discussion on the consent agenda as amended? Okay, roll call on the consent agenda as amended, please.
Mr. Eimer? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Yeah, those dates have been approved by the council. If you could just get back with us and on the locations. Actually, I would recommend that you work with the chief perhaps
Okay?
on the locations, the street locations or the clerk. And then once you get those set, then give us what that information is, and then we'll share it with the council and publish it on our calendar.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I need to?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up is item 6A, ordinance authorizing intergovernmental agreement for participation in the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network, IPWMAN.
Move to approve.
Alderwoman Ross
Second.
made the motion. Alderman Parrott second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Next item up is 6B, resolution establishing an annual salary increase policy for non-union employees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderwoman O'Donahue second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Yes. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott, were you going to take that other action item from that and run with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I'll update you when I hear back from them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, next up is item 8A, City Treasurer's Report for January 2025. Treasurer Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you've all received copies of the report. I would call your attention to a couple of things there. you see the total general fund balance compared to a year ago is down quite a bit. But I did, after consultation with the city clerk, found out we did pay our liability insurance premium for the year in the month of January, which is in excess of $300,000. So when that hits, it makes a big difference in our general fund balance. But overall, we're still down, and we're not seeing it grow as we should be seeing it. So that's something to take into consideration as we look at budget for the year ahead. If you look specifically at the tax receipts that we received, there are some of them that have gone up for the year. If you look at the municipal sales tax and use tax combined at $3,418,000 plus, that's up over last year at this time it's $3,263,659. So we've got a nice increase there. Similarly with the income tax, now they've paid us through the end of for the liability month through the end of December. And there we're at, you see it there on the report, $2,287,000 plus versus $2,136,000 last year. So we're seeing a slight increase there. And the non-home rule sales tax, now keep in mind this is a smaller source of revenue, but there we're at $887,000. A year ago we were at $864,279. So we are seeing increases in those. Motor fuel, the only reason you're seeing anything extra there is every year they keep raising the motor fuel tax. But if you look at that, the basic motor fuel tax at 19.5 cents per gallon, it was $297,102.80. Last year it's $297,759.28, so about $600. And that is based on the number of gallons sold, as I've mentioned previously. The extra income that we have from that, you see that going up every year because the tax keeps going up. But the gallons the gallons sold are not going up, which, Ronald Reagan once said, if you want more of something, tax it less. Well, apparently the people down in Springfield who made these decisions, the governor and his buddies didn't get the memo, because this is what the result is. So you have more tax revenue from it because of the increase in it, but you don't have people buying more gasoline, which ideally is what you would want to see. Video game tax, there you see complete calendar year, and we're up just slightly, up about 15,000 over where we were a year ago. So we haven't seen a big increase, nor have we seen a decrease in that. And that's where we are with tax receipts at this point in time. And that's all I have, unless there's questions.
Any questions for Treasurer Conzo?
When do we start the budget?
March. We'll
In
start, yeah, well, even this last week in February, I tried to get the revenue projections. Because once we see where we are after 10 months or nearly 10 months, you can get a better idea of where we're going to finish for the year than we would if we did them earlier. And then we'll start meeting the budget committee, which consists of Alderman McClellan, Alderman Sanders, and I will meet with them.
Just for my clarification, when we start getting the information on the projections, how long does that take you to get all that information in?
Well, I keep, it's a continuing process because you revise it based on, what we see happen in March and April. I should have a preliminary idea of, that we can work with right about the beginning of March. So if you want to see it, I'll be happy to provide it to you. But of course, we won't have the expenditures figured out yet at that point.
But we know, we'll be able to compare at least what we had for budget projection last year and where we are and what we're looking at for next year.
Yeah, and again, that'll be refined as we go through the last 2 months. But yes, that's what we'll start with.
Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, it literally changes up till the very end of the month of April.
Any other questions for Treasurer Conzo? Okay, next up is item 8B, City Treasurer's Annual Report for fiscal year 2023-2024. Treasurer Conzo.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. The annual report, now this is a cash basis, you know, the audit, which Ms. Milosevic presented from Estes, Bridgewater, and Ogden, is based on an accrual basis. So this is more of a snapshot as of end of the year, which was April 30th of 2024. And I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. You see the revenue summaries there and the compensation and the expenditures. Keep in mind there with the special funds, especially some of that is revenue that carries over from year to year. For a good example of that is the general obligation bond fund. You don't see any revenue this year because we renew those every 3 years. So the last time we did that was in the 22-23 fiscal year. But we don't spend it all in that year. So we keep spending that throughout the duration of that bond. It'll be time to do that again in January or either December of 2025, January of 26, right in that time frame, 60-day time frame there when we want to do that again. That is the only bond for which there's a tax levy. The others are alternate revenue source bonds. So when we received that, which was I think $499,000 more or less, when we received that in January of 2023, that money is money that we use throughout the duration of the next 3-year period. So we're still using that money, but there's no additional revenue for that fund until we get to approximately January of 2026. So a lot of those are carried year to year. Another one is the Capital Projects Fund, and I think we've all talked about that at length. I don't know if there's any questions on this. There's a detailed listing of the expenditures. Everything greater than $500 is listed there, and then the others are, there's a lot of little ones that range anywhere from $1 up to $499 if you want to see those. I'll be happy to show those to you, but we don't print all those in the report. And this report will appear in the Courier. I believe it'll be a week from Wednesday.
Any questions for the treasurer? Okay. Ms. McClellan.
Not for Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mr. Conzo. Ms. McClellan, floor is yours.
I just, point of order, I voted on that closing the street thing, and I need to abstain from that, so don't know how we redo that.
John, how would you advise us? It's a matter of record.
Yeah, we'll be voting on the streets again, right? Right streets, or is it?
On the particular street locations.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. You can abstain at that time as well.
You just
Okay.
basically voted on the dates
Yeah.
at this point.
Thank you. Okay, next item up is item 8C, City Clerk's Report for January 2025. Ms. Bateman.
In the month of January, we received $330,294.69 in sewer receipts, which $10,000.96 was from both prisons. Just another reminder that Thursday is the last day to pay your sewer annually for residential, if that's what you want to do. As of the closing of Friday, which was 2/14, we've had 1,024 accounts that has paid, which was $460,000, $460,907.89 so far. That was as of Friday. So next week I should have a final number of what it ends up being.
Any questions for Ms. Bateman? Okay, thank you. Okay, next item is 8D, Department Head Reports for January 2025. Those are either on file on the city website already or should be shortly. Next item is item number 9, approval of the construction of an access ramp and road for the community solar to replace the control system at the Lincolnwood Lift Station in an amount not to exceed $60,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Alderman Bateman made the motion. Alderman Downs second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mrs. Ross?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Eimer? Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mrs. McCollum?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us down to announcements. Does anybody have an announcement they'd like to make? Ms. Rolfs?
I received a phone call from a resident in Lincoln. And I think this applies to all of us because when I got my Illinois American water bill, it had gone up also, but this person's went up $20. I hope the residents realize that is done by the Illinois, Commerce Commission, and it's not anything to do with the city raising that bill. But my bill only went up $7, and that person's went up $20. So I don't know what, and we both were at the same level. So I'm not sure whether there's something on the bill that we need to understand that we're not noticing.
Based on gallons used, so you
Right.
used the same amount of gallons as this person did.
I probably used more, but
It's
I'm gonna
based on
check
your
that.
gallons, so, it's gotta be apples and apples. I mean, Mrs. Bateman and I pay $8 a month for a fire hydrant that doesn't exist and have been for decades, so.
We'd have to do a comparison of the bills to better understand it, but
I just think maybe for the general public, as far as making an announcement, that if, when they get their bills, yes, they have gone up, but it has nothing to do with the city. They need to look at the flyer that's inside that letter to know that that's the ICC. So, but I thought $20 a month going, that seemed like a lot.
Illinois American had 2 rate increases for the upgrades they made to the facilities and the water tower here in town. I understand that that's what the rate hike increases are for, but you're right. Those were approved by the Illinois Commerce Commission. So any questions about that bill, Illinois American would be better positioned to answer that.
And that phone number is on that sheet, so,
Yep.
so
Yep.
they know that they can call them.
Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. I would also know, if I recall, when I looked at our water bill, it was up slightly, but I looked at the number of days, and I believe this month, the number of days on it, but were 32 days, where sometimes it's 30 or 31. So that's going to make some difference, or could make some difference. I don't know if it count for $20 worth, but it could make, ours was up slightly, and then when I looked at it closely, I saw that the number of days in the billing cycle was more than it usually is.
Well,
Mr. Parrott?
I hated to say mine only went up 7 because I don't want to look at my bill and raise it at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
this past weekend, Lincoln High School hosted the wrestling sectional tournament, and Dawson McConnell received second place and moves on to state. And so happy for him, and I think that's this weekend.
Yes, that's correct. The individual state championships in Champaign starting Thursday.
And then, well, when is team? Is that going to be in 2
Team
weeks?
sectional, which Lincoln Community High School is hosting the team sectional also, and competing in it will be next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, and then
I
also
believe it's
this
6.
this Tuesday, everyone is welcome to go out to LCHS and honor Lincoln Wrestling for their accomplishments this year, and that's at 9:38 in the morning on Tuesday, February 18th, I believe.
Was there also, did I read today that the Raylet dance team also won a state championship as well?
Second year in a row.
Second year, yeah. So I think they'll be part of that event that you just mentioned.
All right, very good. Raylets.
Okay.
I believe it's in the gym.
Yes. Alderman Downs.
It was a separate announcement. Are you done? All right, cool. Hey, wanted to invite the public to this Thursday at 6 o'clock to the library. There's going to be a Langston Hughes poetry reading there. It's open to the public, so you guys can come on out and hear some classic poetry and learn a little bit about Lincoln's Langston Hughes and have fun. 6 p.m.
Thank you. Any other announcements this evening? Okay, if there are no other announcements, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion. Alderman Parrott second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting is adjourned at 6:35 p.m.